What's up guys, Tanner Chister here, and in this video, I wanna talk about the top 5 things that you should do in your 20s so you don't ruin your 30s. All right guys, Tanner Chister here, teaching you how to break away from your 9 to 5 to build a wildly profitable online business. Now, the first thing is gonna be what I call the deadline. And all that basically means is in your 20s, figure out who you wanna be before you turn 30. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there who might say, hey, you know, it's okay to explore and you can try a bunch of different things and yada, yada. And it is to an extent. I just think before you turn 30, it's something that you want to figure out, you know, what your goals are, what's important to you and where you want to go, because you can take a lot more risk. Meaning that, you know, when I was in my 20s, I worked at Olive Garden and sold breadsticks, and I was doing door-to-door sales, and I was, you know, doing all kinds of weird stuff. I had a 16-year-old car. I was paying about $1,200 of rent a month. So I didn't have a lot of risk. I could pretty much do whatever I wanted, try different things, and it didn't really matter. The thing is as you kind of approach 30 and you get older, you might have a girlfriend, you might have kids, you might have obligations to your house, your car, your job, whatever. So all of a sudden, if you haven't really figured out what it is you want to do or where you're trying to go, it becomes extremely difficult. And I know this from experience and from the clients I work with. I know that clients who are in their 20s, who have no risk or things to worry about, they're able to make a lot of progress a lot faster typically than someone who's older, because there's not as much risk, there's not as much obligation and responsibility. So the first thing that you should focus on is make a deadline. Have a day in mind where you can figure out what it is you want to do, where you're going, and what your goals are, so before you turn 30 and you get a bunch of responsibility, you can already start making progress in that direction. All right, the second thing to do is to take risks. And this goes back a little bit to what I said previously, but take risks in your 20s. You really can do pretty much whatever, whenever, at whatever time in your 20s, and no one's really gonna say much. So, you know, if you live at home with your parents, I actually moved home when I started my business. No one's really gonna say anything. If you're in college and you're eating, you know, Chick-fil-A every day, or you sleep on the floor, no one's really gonna say anything. If you have a crappy job, no one's gonna really say anything. But what you'll notice is as you kind of get into your 30s, it's not really as cute anymore. It's not really fun at that point. Like, you're not gonna go to the bar and, you know, spend $1 on a beer and like have a grand old time because you're broke. It's just not gonna be that way. So the biggest thing that I can suggest or tell you is to not ruin your 30s is to take risks in your 20s. Try a business, fail. Try another business, fail again. Live, you know, very cheaply, you know, sleep on a couch, live at your parents', try sales jobs that you really don't want to do to learn sales. It doesn't really matter as long as you're moving towards your goal. So one of the biggest things that I didn't purposely do at the time, but I'm so glad I did, is I did door-to-door sales. I worked as a server. I did pest control. I did jobs I didn't really like that were really hard, that you had to be good at sales. And it led me to where I'm at today, to where when I actually got into a business that I enjoyed and loved and I was good at, it was really easy to sell these people because they actually wanted what I have. Instead of, you know, knocking on someone's door, selling a security alarm or pest control where, you know, they just want you to leave, honestly. So the second thing to really avoid having bad things happen in your 30s or to have terrible 30s is take risks in your 20s. You really have nothing to lose. And don't be ashamed to go home or live at your parents, or to have a crappy car, because ultimately no one's gonna care. All you're trying to do at your 20s is lay a foundation for the rest of your life. All right, number 3, now I'm still in my younger 20s, so, you know, some people will say like, you don't know what you're talking about, but what I can tell you is from, you know, my college football days and my high school football days and my modeling days, you know, maybe Isaiah can throw up some sexy pics on the screen. Just kidding, you don't wanna see those. But what I can tell you is that even then I felt better than I did earlier this year, maybe last year. So I've really gotten back into my health and fitness. I've been eating super healthy again. I actually get meals pre-packed and sent here. I go to the gym every day at about 4:35 a.m. I go do infrared sauna, all this type of stuff, because I noticed it started kind of affecting my performance and my overall behavior and mood. And it wasn't as hard, it didn't happen as much in my younger 20s because I took good care of myself, but as I got into business and I kind of let it go, I really started to notice like, wow, like I don't feel as good as I did when I was younger. I don't move as fast. I'm not as strong. Like, and I'm still in my 20s, but it's only a few years different. So I start thinking, man, 13 years from now, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, how am I gonna feel? And you can really start noticing the difference, because when people get in their 30s, you'll start seeing, you know, one person has a bunch of wrinkles, or they don't look in great shape, or they look really fatigued, and then some other people will still look amazing. And so it's super important that if you want to avoid those types of things, take care of your skin. Go to the gym every single day, even if it's just for 30 minutes. Drink a lot of water, eat healthier, because ultimately it will catch up to you. A lot of us think we're invincible. When I played football, I thought I was. Then 4 shoulder surgeries later, I realized I wasn't. So the third thing is take care of your health. And I know it might sound fruity or it might be like, oh my God, but I promise you, you'll be thankful later and it'll help you perform better in your business. So the fourth thing you should avoid is blame. Now, this is a very interesting topic to me, not only from my standpoint in growing my business, but also from working with clients. Now, the number one thing I think I realized, and that kind of propelled me to where I'm at, is I always try to take blame. Now, I have had less than stellar moments where I said the choice words to people I wasn't proud of, or I did say, hey, this coach sucked, etc. But ultimately, I knew that success rode and died with me, meaning that if my Facebook ads didn't work, it was my fault. If my team messed something up, it was my fault for not telling them how to do it better. If a sales call is not closed, it's my fault for not getting my sales guys more prepared. If I get a ticket, it's not because the cop's dumb, it's because I should have been more aware. Even when it's not your fault, right? So even something horrible, let's say like you got some significant disease. The best way to approach it would be like, man, it's my fault for not coming up with a solution to fix this disease. Or if someone hit you and they were drunk driving, be like, it's my fault for not being more aware. Let's say it was like midnight. It's my fault for not being more aware at the late time of night that there might be drunk drivers on the road. It's not that it's actually your fault sometimes. It's the fact that you approach it that way. And when you approach it that way, you're gonna have more control, right? When it's always your fault, you will be in control and you never wanna give that control away to someone else, right? He made me mad. They made me do it. This coach sucked. Because now you're not in control, right? The thing is that the people who do the best, they take all the blame and they realize that they're in full control of their life. It's not always easy, but it's the best thing you can do. The second part to this is that ultimately, whoever wins in the marketplace provides the most value. The market decides. So you could cry, complain, and whine all you want, but ultimately, the person who provides the most value in the marketplace will win. And so, whining, complaining, saying it's not fair, all that stuff, it's just better to take responsibility and say, hey, I'm not where I want to be because X, Y, and Z, right? In my business, if we're not where I want to be, it's my fault. I need to create another offer. I need to get better at ad campaigns. I need to, make more sales, etc. When you look at business in that light, you will always do a lot better. And then step number 5 is try to live a little. Now, this is actually something I've struggled with and I've just recently started doing it. When I started my business, I lived pretty frugally and I think most people should. But once you start having a little bit of success, once you start making a little bit of money and you're able to, live well beyond your means per se, or like more than you usually did, try to enjoy life a little. I got a new penthouse that you can see right here. I got a new car. And I'm traveling, and it's not so that I can brag or boast. It's just that ultimately you only live once. And so while I do think it's important to work hard and that's important to me and I want to do great things and like help other people, part of it is like trying to enjoy the journey along the way. And I'm not always the best at it. And you can ask people who know me and friends and family, like they'll tell you sometimes I work too much and I'm really dedicated to my vision. But what I can tell you is that as I'm getting older, that you start to realize like once you start making a certain amount of money and it doesn't excite you as much to keep making more, because the goal at the beginning is when you were broke and you're poor to make as much as you humanly possibly could. And then once it starts to happen a little more naturally and you don't have to work quite as hard, it gets a little less exciting. And you start realizing that it's really more about the experiences and the connections and the things you do, because when you die, no one's really gonna ask you how much money you made. They're gonna ask you, did you live with regrets? Did you do the things you wanted to do? Did you complete your bucket list? And so the last thing is just make sure that while you're working hard and you're building your dream, you don't forget to live along the way. And this doesn't mean going out to the nightclubs and getting hammered every night and doing stupid stuff, but it means to actually experience life. With people you love and go on trips and like that actually support you, do those things, because ultimately at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, how much you worked and how much you made isn't gonna matter to too many people. So those are the 5 tips, guys, to avoid if you wanna have a good 30s. Thank you so much for watching. As always, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.